Have you ever wondered what were the final days of King Solomon's life? It's like peering into a treasure chest of wisdom and insight from ancient times. So if you're ready for an adventure through the pages of the Bible, join me as we unravel the story of this legendary figure. Let's dive into this video today to uncover the inspiring last days of King Solomon's life and the valuable lessons they hold. Even the wisest of kings face challenges, and King Solomon was no exception. Despite his renowned wisdom, Solomon encountered obstacles that brought his reign to a critical point. King Solomon, the son of King David and Bathsheba, is a prominent figure in the biblical scriptures. He is renowned for his exceptional wisdom, wealth, and pivotal role in building the Temple of Jerusalem. Both triumphs and challenges marked Solomon's reign. Solomon's journey to kingship was not without obstacles. After his father's death, King David and his older brother Adonijah attempted to seize the throne. However, through the intervention of the prophet Nathan and Bathsheba, Solomon, chosen by God, was crowned as the rightful king of Israel. Early life of Solomon. According to the divine revelation given to David, Solomon was destined to build the temple in Jerusalem. While David was forbidden from constructing it due to his history of warfare, Solomon, a man of peace, was appointed for this sacred task. The name Solomon itself means peaceful, reflecting the tranquility he brought to Israel during his reign. Solomon's name holds symbolic meaning. Derived from the word shalom, meaning peace, it signifies his role in bringing peace and harmony to the nation. He is also referred to as Jedediah in the Bible, meaning beloved by the Lord, highlighting the favor and affection bestowed upon him by God. Talking about his history, King Solomon ruled over Israel for about 40 years from 971 to 931 BC. Although his early life is mostly unknown, the Bible provides some information, especially about his father David. David, known for having many wives, faced a lot of family problems. This led to conflicts among his wives and children, who all wanted to gain power and status. Solomon entered biblical history during a tumultuous time in his family. There was a struggle for the throne of Israel due to King David's old age and weakness. Before Solomon's reign, his half-brother Absalom tried to take the throne from their father, but he failed. Then Adonijah, David's eldest surviving son, also tried to become king. He had support from Joab, David's former general, and Abiathar, the priest. Adonijah made several attempts to claim the throne, even organizing a festival to declare himself king. When Adonijah's plan to become king was discovered, Nathan, the prophet, Zadok, the priest, and other allies stepped in. They reminded David of his promise to make Solomon his successor. David then took action, issuing orders for Solomon to ascend to the throne. During his coronation, Solomon was anointed king of Israel, likely by Zadok. At that time, Solomon was only around 18 years old. Solomon's early reign. Solomon began his reign by focusing on stability and unity in the kingdom. His exceptional wisdom made him stand out from other leaders of his time. Early on, Solomon made a significant covenant with God. This showed not just his wisdom, but also his commitment to seeking divine guidance in his governance. The details of this covenant and its terms are documented in the first book of Kings. One night, Solomon made sacrifices to God in a place called Gibeon. That very night, God came to Solomon in a dream. God told Solomon he could ask for anything, and it would be given to him. Solomon didn't ask for riches or fame. Instead, he showed humility. He talked about his big responsibility in leading the people of Israel. Solomon knew he needed wisdom to make fair and just judgments and rulings. He understood that he couldn't do this alone. He needed God's help to make wise choices that would benefit everyone in Israel. Also, his choice to ask for wisdom was a smart one. It showed he wanted to lead honestly and fairly as a good leader should. He didn't just think about himself, he thought about what was best for his people. God was pleased with Solomon's request. Not only did God give him wisdom, but he also promised to give him more. Solomon was told he would have riches and honor like no other king in Israel's history. One famous story that shows Solomon's wisdom is about two women arguing over a baby. This story is found in the first book of Kings. Solomon's wise decision, in this case, became well known and showed everyone how wise he was. Solomon's wise judgment. Once, two women lived together and had babies around the same time. Sadly, one of the babies died. Both women claimed the surviving baby was theirs. They couldn't agree, so they went to King Solomon to seek justice. Instead of rushing into a decision, Solomon came up with a clever idea. He suggested cutting the baby in half and giving each woman a part. This might sound harsh, but Solomon wanted to see how the women would react. The response of the women showed who the real mother was. The woman who truly cared for the baby begged Solomon not to hurt the child. She was willing to give up the baby if it meant keeping it safe. The other woman, who wasn't the real mother, agreed to the idea of splitting the baby. Solomon saw through their actions and declared the woman who showed genuine love as the real mother. He ordered that the baby be given to her. This decision proved Solomon's wisdom in understanding a mother's love. Apart from his wisdom in judgment, Solomon was known for his great accomplishments. One of the biggest was building the Temple of Jerusalem, which became the heart of the kingdom and showed that God was always with the people of Israel. The magnificent Temple of Solomon. The temple built by Solomon wasn't just a building, it was a reflection of his great administrative abilities and the wealth of the kingdom. It showcased how prosperous Israel was during his reign. Although the idea of building a temple to honor God was first thought of by Solomon's father, King David, it was Solomon who took on the task and made it a reality. The Bible carefully describes the temple's construction, highlighting the use of valuable materials like cedar from Lebanon for the structure and pure gold for its decorations. This shows how dedicated Solomon was to honoring God with the best. The temple was built on Mount Moriah, a place with deep meaning. It's where Abraham showed his faith by being willing to sacrifice his son, Isaac. This act of faith happened even before the temple was built, showing the long-standing bond between God and his people. Moreover, the Temple of Solomon became more than just a building. It became the heart of Israel's spiritual and cultural life. It was a place where people gathered to worship, symbolizing their unity and devotion to God. Visit of Queen of Sheba. In addition to his achievements in building the temple, Solomon also focused on forming alliances with other nations. These relationships were crucial for trade and diplomacy. One famous example is the visit of the Queen of Sheba, which is recorded in the Bible. A short and mysterious part of the Hebrew Bible talks about how Solomon's wisdom and riches became so famous that even the Queen of Sheba, who lived far away, heard about it. She decided to visit Solomon, bringing gifts like gold, spices, and precious stones. Solomon was very generous to the Queen of Sheba. He gave her everything she wanted, and she left feeling satisfied, as mentioned in 1 Kings 10:13. It's not clear why this visit is in the Bible. It could be just to show that people from distant places recognized Solomon's wisdom and wealth. Whether the visit has a deeper meaning is unknown, but the Queen of Sheba's story has become the topic of many tales. Sheba is often linked to Saba, an ancient nation that stretched across the Red Sea, including parts of modern-day Eritrea, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Yemen. However, some sources place it in what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. According to a rabbinical account, Solomon had a unique ability to command animals to dance before him, a gift from God. One day, he summoned a mountain cock or hoopoe, which revealed the existence of a distant land in the east. This land was rich in gold, silver, and plants, with a capital city called Kitor, ruled by the Queen of Sheba. Upon learning about the Queen of Sheba, Solomon sent the bird to invite her to visit him. When the Queen of Sheba came to Jerusalem, she wanted to test Solomon's wisdom. She asked him challenging questions, but Solomon answered them all with ease. The queen was impressed by Solomon's wisdom and the wealth of his kingdom. During the queen's visit, gifts were significantly exchanged, including spices, gold, and precious stones. This highlighted the diplomatic nature of their encounter and the importance of maintaining good relations between kingdoms. Solomon also formed marital alliances by marrying princesses from neighboring nations like Egypt and Phoenicia. This was a common practice at the time to strengthen ties and promote peace between kingdoms. Moreover, according to an Ethiopian account from the 14th century called the Kebra Nagast, the Queen of Sheba, after her encounter with King Solomon, gave birth to a son beside the Mybella stream in Hamasien, Eritrea. This son, named Menelik I, later became the king of Aksum. Menelik I founded a dynasty that ruled over Ethiopia for an astonishing 2,900 years. This dynasty began as a Jewish empire before adopting Christianity. It endured until 1974 when Haile Selassie was overthrown. Menelik I was said to have been a practicing Jew. According to tradition, he was given a replica of the Ark of the Covenant by King Solomon himself. Additionally, it's believed that the original Ark was taken to Aksum along with Menelik and his mother. According to Ethiopian tradition, it's said to be still there, guarded by a single devoted priest. The belief in the lineage from the union of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba and the possession of the Ark of the Covenant served as a crucial source of legitimacy and honor for the Ethiopian monarchy over many generations. This belief deeply influenced Ethiopian culture and society, shaping their identity and traditions. The Ethiopian government and church consistently reject all requests to view the alleged Ark. This refusal to share the artifact adds to its mystique and reinforces its significance in Ethiopian culture. Some rabbis from classical times, seeking to criticize Solomon's character, offered a different interpretation. They suggested that the child born from the union between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba was an ancestor of Nebuchadnezzar II. This alternative view challenges the traditional Ethiopian narrative and highlights differing interpretations of historical events. Solomon's deviation and consequences. Despite his wisdom and grandeur, Solomon wasn't perfect. He made mistakes that had significant consequences for his government and Israel's history. One major error was his involvement with foreign women, which went against divine instructions. The first book of Kings, 11:13, reveals that Solomon didn't follow God's law. He had many foreign wives, including the daughter of Pharaoh, and married princesses from neighboring nations. This act went against God's command, which strictly prohibited marriages with women who worshipped other gods. These marriages weren't just about politics. They brought foreign cultural and religious influences into Israel. The foreign wives introduced practices that gradually hurt Solomon and the nation. As a result, Solomon started tolerating the worship of various idols. He even participated in rituals that contradicted the exclusive worship of the God of Israel. This deviation from God's commandments had serious consequences for the king and the people. The peak of Solomon's deviation was the construction of temples for the idols in honor of his foreign wives' deities. This directly contradicted God's commandments and marked a significant departure from the faithful worship of the one true God. The first book of Kings, specifically chapters 11 and 12, describes Solomon's apostasy. In the final days of his reign, he constructed altars for foreign gods, signaling a departure from the principles that guided the nation. Despite Solomon's wisdom, his failure to follow God's law and his deviation into idol worship had profound consequences. This chapter in Solomon's life serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the importance of staying true to one's faith and principles, even in the face of political and personal considerations. Despite his renowned wisdom and grandeur, Solomon's reign was marred by failures and mistakes that had significant repercussions for his government and the history of Israel. One of Solomon's major missteps was his involvement with foreign women, which directly contradicted divine instructions. In the first book of Kings, 11:13, it is documented that Solomon had numerous foreign wives, including the daughter of Pharaoh, and married princesses from neighboring nations. This disregard for God's law, which prohibited marriages with women who worshipped other gods, led to serious consequences. Introduction of foreign influences. These marriages weren't merely political alliances. They introduced foreign cultural and religious practices into Israel. The foreign wives brought with them religious customs that gradually negatively influenced Solomon. Under the influence of his foreign wives, Solomon began to tolerate the worship of various idols. He participated in rituals that went against the exclusive worship of the God of Israel, deviating from the fundamental principles of his faith. The culmination of Solomon's deviation was the construction of temples dedicated to the idols worshipped by his wives. This act directly violated God's commandments and symbolized a departure from the faithful worship of the one true God. Solomon's story serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers of straying from divine guidance and succumbing to worldly influences. Despite his wisdom, Solomon's moral lapses had far-reaching consequences, underscoring the importance of remaining steadfast in faith and obedience to God's commandments. Toward the end of Solomon's reign, his actions, including the construction of altars for foreign idols, marked a period of decline, as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapters 11 and 12. This phase was marked by both glory and shadows, revealing the complexities of life and governance. Solomon's reign during this time experienced both greatness and darkness. While he had achieved much glory earlier, the shadows of his later decisions began to cast doubt on his leadership. Solomon's story illustrates the intricate nature of governance. Despite his earlier wisdom and success, his later choices, particularly regarding his marriages to foreign women and his tolerance of foreign idol worship, began to have detrimental effects on his rule. Negative impact of previous choices. The consequences of Solomon's previous decisions became increasingly evident as his reign progressed. His willingness to compromise his faith and principles for political alliances and personal desires ultimately led to internal strife and spiritual decline within the kingdom. Due to Solomon's disobedience, God's anger manifested by raising adversaries against him. Jeroboam, a trusted official, rebelled against Solomon and became a prominent leader. He eventually led the northern tribes, causing division within the kingdom. Solomon's death marked the end of an era. After ruling for 40 years, he left behind a legacy that included the magnificent construction of the Temple of Jerusalem and a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity. The Bible doesn't specify the exact cause of Solomon's death. However, in the first book of Kings, chapter 11, it is noted that the rest of Solomon's story, including his actions and wisdom, is recorded in the book of the Acts of the Kings of Israel. Solomon was laid to rest with his ancestors in the city of David. His son, Rehoboam, succeeded him as king, inheriting both his father's legacy and the challenges that came with it: death, succession of Rehoboam, and kingdom division. King Solomon, a central figure in the Hebrew Bible, is renowned for constructing the first temple in Jerusalem. According to biblical accounts, he was the last ruler of the United Kingdom of Israel. As mentioned in 1 Kings 11:42, Solomon ruled for 40 years and died from natural causes at around 55. His son Rehoboam succeeded him as king. However, upon Solomon's death, 10 of the tribes of Israel rejected Rehoboam's kingship. This split the kingdom into two parts: the northern kingdom of Israel under Jeroboam and the smaller southern kingdom of Judah under Rehoboam's rule. Following this division, the two kingdoms never reunited. This marked a significant turning point in the history of Israel, with the northern and southern kingdoms following separate paths and facing distinct challenges. Solomon is remembered as the pinnacle of the golden age of the independent kingdom of Israel. He is celebrated for his unparalleled wisdom in matters of judgment and religion. Solomon's literary contributions. According to Jewish tradition, Solomon authored 3 books of the Bible. One is Mishlei, the book of Proverbs. It contains a wealth of wisdom and fables that offer guidance for daily life. Another is Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is a reflective book that explores the meaning of life and the pursuit of happiness. Third is Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. The Song of Songs is a collection of poetry, often interpreted as describing both romantic love between a man and a woman and symbolically representing the relationship between God and his people. The verses attributed to Solomon in these books continue to be studied and interpreted by scholars and believers alike. They offer timeless insights into human nature, the pursuit of wisdom, and the spiritual journey. In the Psalms, specifically hymns 72 and 127, the Hebrew word leshlomo, pronounced leshlomo, appears in the titles. This word can mean to Solomon or by Solomon. The ambiguity of the Hebrew word has led some scholars to suggest that Solomon might have been the author of these two psalms. The word lshomamh could indicate that these hymns were either dedicated to Solomon or written by him. However, the exact authorship of these psalms remains uncertain, and scholars have offered various interpretations. While some believe Solomon authored them, others argue that the title might refer to the psalm's content or context rather than its authorship. So, what do you think of the last days of King Solomon's life? Comment below and subscribe for more.